Hi there, Steve Arterburn here, and welcome to the live Facebook podcast from New Life. Yesterday, I told you that I wanted to talk a little bit more about transformation, and that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to watch a little video from Dr. Dave Stoop on surrender, which you can't really transform unless you surrender. I was thinking today about what are the things that transform us. Of course, when you think about abuse, that just destroys you, transforms you into someone totally different. And addiction is one of those transforming things. You can take just a really nice person, wonderful person, and maybe let's just talk about an innocent addiction. You go to the doctor and you've got chronic pain. He says, well, here, try this. I know that when certain medications come out, the pharmaceutical companies say, hey, don't worry about it. No problem with this. And then later on, people discover there are a lot of problems with it. And so you're using it, and all of a sudden you can't not use it, and you get addicted. Boy, does it ever transform your life, and it's not good. So a lot of negative things that transform us. But one of the things that if you go to Romans 12:2, it says that we could be transformed by changing the way that we think. Now, who's going to change the way they think if they don't think they have a thinking problem? Nobody. So, I've always said if somebody says you're a horse, ignore them. It's obvious you're not a horse. If two people happen to mention that you just might be a horse, you might want to start to pay attention. When the third person tells you you're a horse, maybe it's time to buy a saddle and saddle up to the reality you're not who you thought you were. So sometimes we have to stop defending ourselves and start to listen to what people are saying. Even people that maybe we don't like or we don't think like us very much. We need to listen. When we start to listen and look around, we start to see the reality of our situation. And if we can see what's there, and it's not pretty, if we can accept the reality of our lives, that those things that we try to deny or maybe we try to minimize them, we try to blame somebody else for them. But if we can finally see them and accept this is who I am and this is what I have to deal with, then I've got some hope. I know people, some are counselors and therapists, they're totally blind to who they are. I know folks that are in recovery, totally blind to who they are. They have no idea. They can't see it. And if you were to say to them, you might be part of the problem here. No, they'd think you were the problem for thinking they were the problem. That's how severe denial can be. And so how do we see things that we can't see? Well, first, we have to ask ourselves, am I doing an accurate evaluation of myself? Am I seeing the reality? Or do I think I really don't need much transformation? Now, let me tell you some evidence that you need some transformation. I don't know of any growth program, leadership program, 12-step or 7-step program. I don't know any of those that if you'll work the program, you're going to end up more angry at any one individual, more trying to control them, more irritated, or more critical. So you might be saying, boy, I tell you, this therapy I'm getting, it's just fantastic. And then you walk out of there and the people in your life, your kids, spouse, family, friends, you're all over them. You're angry. You're disappointed. You're critical. I got to tell you, that's the wrong therapist. You can say, hey, listen, I've been going to this new men's group, and boy, I'll tell you, it is just changing my life. And then you go home, you try to control everybody. You're upset. You're demanding. It's not helping. If I don't see the fruits of the program, it's not a good program, or you're not working the program. Transformation transforms me to become more like God and less like all the negative stuff within me. Who's God? God is love. So if I'm really working a program, you could be in big trouble. You could be, let's say, you're extremely addicted to a painkiller. I'm not going to come home and criticize you. I'm not going to come home and beat you up over that. I'm going to do something really loving. I'm going to remind you of the person you were before you got addicted, and I'm going to give you some direction on how we're going to get some help together for you. And I'm not going to settle for, no, I'll figure it out myself or whatever. And I'm not going to enable you. I'm not going to try to meet every need, but I'm sure not going to be angry that you, in your addiction, aren't just waking up one day and deciding, I think I'll get better today. It doesn't happen. So rather than be angry, critical, demeaning, or belittling, I'm gonna be a positive force in your life. I'm not gonna buy you drugs. I'm not gonna do anything that makes the problem worse or allows you to sit in it. So I'm accepting responsibility. The opposite of seeing my reality and accepting responsibility is seeing your reality and forcing you to accept responsibility for my comfort. Isn't that horrible? Because, if somebody's in trouble, the other person, you can't fix them, you can't comfort them enough. And more than enough is never enough. So, again, we want to be able to see the reality of our situation. And if you see criticism in your situation, if you see distance, isolation, if you see meanness, anger, and bitterness, what program are you working? Who are you trying to convince that you're on the right track? You are not on the right track. That's not transforming you. Because really, you see, what I do as I'm working a program, whether you call it discipleship, 12-step, recovery, growth, whatever, I have to be able to see the reality of who I am before I can ever do anything about it. And if I don't see it, and I blame everything else on somebody else, if I'm so in denial or I'm so defensive that I can't see it, then I can never get to what I want to talk to you about that's transforming. Because that surrender. When a person truly surrenders their life, you see, they've seen the reality, maybe because they finally trusted somebody to say, hey, look, maybe you ought to work on this. And they've seen it, and they've said, you know what? I have been working on this, and it's not getting any better. I don't have all that it takes. And so I need to finally let somebody help me. Now, if you had an alcohol problem and you met a guy named Bill W. that was walking around during the early days, he would help you reach a point of surrender before you could ever get well. Dr. Bob was his buddy, and Dr. Bob was quite a Christian, quite a believer. And when the success rate of AA was so high in the very beginning there in Akron, Dr. Bob, if you came to him and said, oh, I'm just struggling so badly, or your wife or husband drug you in there, Dr. Bob, before he'd do anything, he'd take you to what he called the upper room, and you'd get on your knees and you'd surrender your life to Jesus Christ. Because it is at the point of surrender that we really do begin to transform our lives. Not looking better, not doing a little bit better, but it's surrender. Now, I want you to see a video by Dr. Dave Stoop. Dave and I have been working together, writing together. We edited the Life Recovery Bible together. Life Recovery Bible, there are 3 million of those Bibles out there. And it's the Pew Bible and the Salvation Army. It is also the Bible that Prison Fellowship gives away to any prisoner who wants one. And in this, we've dealt with a lot of folks in a lot of trouble who started to transform their lives once they surrendered. And really the first 3 steps in the 12 steps are: I can't change me, this, can't do it, somebody else. I know God can, and I'm going to surrender to God. I want you to watch this. This is part of the, if you go to newlife.com, we usually reserve these videos for our Club New Life members, over 600 of them. But we've opened them up during this time of crisis because we want, whatever we have, we want people to have it to help them get through it. But this is a good one. Listen, watch Dr. Dave Stoop.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Stoop. I'm one of the co-hosts of the New Life Live radio and television program, and we're talking about the 12 steps. And the way I organize the 12 steps is in 3 commitments. The first commitment is a commitment to Jesus. It involves steps 1, 2, and 3. And we've talked about step 1, where we admitted we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. And so we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, which I say the only one who's greater than us is in power is Jesus himself. And now at step 3, we make a decision finally to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Now, there's a subtlety in that step that I missed for years. I grew up in a Christian home, Christian church on weekends, and was challenged many times to turn my life over to the care of God. And many times I did that, and it never worked. It would work for a while, and then it would fall apart. And I never noticed in this 12 steps until we were really working with them that this third step makes an interesting distinction, that we make a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. Now, if I had been challenged as a young adolescent to turn my will over to God, that would have been a bigger challenge, because that means that I give up my self-will and I am surrendering now to the power of God and the power of Jesus, and I'm making the decision to depend on that power to direct me and guide me and to protect me. There's a progression. I'm powerless, not helpless, powerless. I got to find somebody who's more powerful than me. I find that in Jesus. And then I make a decision to turn my will and my life over to him. My will and my life over to him. That's the key distinction, and that's what makes it so different, because now it's not my will, but it's your will, God. And so there was a Fenelon, he was kind of the priest for Louis XIV, and he wrote a book called Let Go and Let God. And that's one of the favorite sayings in Alcoholics Anonymous, is to let go and let God. And that's what it is to be powerless, to get the power that's greater than myself, which is God himself, and to let go and to let God take care of the problem. If you need help, call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I'll tell you, everybody would sure benefit themselves to have a friend like Dave Stoop. Dave and I have done so much together, and you know, he was such a great partner in our editing of the Life Recovery Bible. He knows surrender. He has lived it, and you know, he's been such a great example for me. Now, if you want to get more into surrender, or if you'd like to learn a little bit more, or even incorporate the 12 steps into your life, you know, when Bill W. and Dr. Bob developed the 12 steps, in the last transcript that Dr. Bob ever gave. He said, we didn't invent these. We discovered them in the good book. The Beatitudes, Sermon on the Mount, the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13, and the book of James. And so really what we've done is just kind of bring them right back to the Bible. We haven't put the Bible in recovery. It's always been there. We just brought recovery back into the Bible. Now, you could get a Life Recovery Bible, and it's going to help you. It's got a lot of great devotional material on surrender. Why am I taking this much time? Because surrender, in whatever form, is the beginning of transformation. There are really two types of surrender that you could have. One is I have this emotional, spiritual, I just give up everything and nothing's ever the same. We know what that's like. You know, if you were in a church and they said, come on, rededicate your life. You know, you go down the aisle and you surrender everything, you know, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling and experience. But there's another kind of surrender, and it's more of a decision than an emotional experience. And it's the decision to comply. And that's all it is. It's saying whatever's working whatever I'm trying to make work isn't working for me. And what I need to do is try something different. So what am I going to try? Well, how about trying something that other people have tried and it's worked great for them? Okay? Like the 12 steps. Like turning my life over to God, even though I don't know how to do that. So I just say, God, you tell me that if I seek you, I'll find you. So I'm seeking you. And I'm saying these three things. I can't seem to be able to do this. I seem to have this extreme limitation. So rather than continue to mess around with it, I'm going to say that I don't have the power to fix it, to change it. You do, and I'm going to surrender to you. And here's how that's going to take shape. I'm just going to follow the directions of some other people who have gone down the path of the 12 steps, and I'm going to do what they have done. So, you want to do that? You get the Bible. You could order it at newlife.com or go on, you can call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. They'll send it to you, or the website, newlife.com. And here's a workbook. It's a really great thing to get the Bible and two workbooks, or two Bibles and two workbooks, and do it with somebody else. I'm still going through the workbooks because they help you surrender, which leads you to transformation. So there's this workbook. It's a general workbook, but we've just added 4 more workbooks. One on eating disorders. So if you eat too much, too little, this workbook through the 12 steps helps you. And then maybe you've been through a divorce. Well, I put this together to help you not just get through it, but grow through it. And then sexual integrity. Everybody that's ever had a problem with pornography or lust, you need a growth program, and this takes you through it. And then this is so valuable, this workbook on grief. It uses the 12 steps, take that path to totally get the grief that has been ungrieved. The ungrieved losses, you deal with them through that workbook. And there's this wonderful journal. It's really just a fantastic journal. Directs you what to write in, one step at a time. It's right there. And then here's a book. This is called the Life Recovery Journey. And every step, there are 4 Bible studies to do out of this book. It's fantastic, really thick, so valuable. There are other resources. I'll tell you about 12 laws of life recovery and the 12 gifts of life recovery. But this book, Take Your Life Back, so powerful. It really does help you go from being controlled by somebody else or being hurt by somebody else's problem, being maybe victimized even long after the person's dead. You're still bitter, angry, you're still struggling. This helps you take your life back. And it, like the rest, begins with surrender. So that's my material for tonight. Transformation. Romans 12:2, change the way you think. And you'll never change the way you think if you don't think that you need to. So listen to some people Get some very, very objective information. And if you're critical, angry, bitter, whatever program you're working, it's not working. So you need to get some help for that. Because here's what we know about God. God is rich in mercy. Well, that's the program. Tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to have a special person right here, my daughter Amelia. We're going to talk about what it's like to go through the coronavirus situation as a child, what she's done to make things better, what she's going through. I think you'll love hearing from this very creative and delightful 10-year-old, my daughter, Amelia Pearl Arterburn. She'll be here. But until then, I hope you stay safe and sane. Reach out to somebody if you need help. Any of these resources, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But also, if you need somebody to talk to, they're right there at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. If you have a question, leave it there in the comment section. I'll try to get you an answer. I love your comments. And please send this on to somebody that might benefit, because you know that they might need to take a second look at what they're doing and surrender, or they have someone in their life that they really need help because this other person is controlling everything that they're doing. Surrender would help them. So maybe this would be great. Send it to them, and if you can hit the like button, I sure would appreciate that too. God bless you, and have a great day.